Welcome to Smalltalk Daily for Wednesday, October 13th, 2010. This morning I wanted to go through the announcement system, which is the updated event triggering mechanism. It supersedes both the trigger event system, it's one that I'm fairly familiar with, and also the change update mechanism, which us old-time VisualWorks users are very familiar with. It's an update in advance on both of them. You can read through the comment here in class announcement, and for that matter in the package there's a good piece of documentation that explains the whole thing pretty well, the whole subscriber event mechanism. So I'd advise you to read that rather than try to have me explain the whole thing and recapitulate. Just read the documentation, it's really good. I'm going to take a look at a very simple example. So I'm going to find class my announcement. So what I've done here is I've created an announcement class. It's a subclass of announcement. I've given it a value object, and that's just going to be a number. I'm going to initialize it to a value. So you can see here in value, I'm going to set the value here in this from somewhere else. So the announcement is going to announce some changed value somewhere in the system, and that's going to come from my announcer. So there's a current value in it, and this guy here is subclass just from object. It's an arbitrary object, so I'm going to use the announcement object that I just showed you here to announce the change to this guy. So this guy has a subscription registry, so he knows who needs to be updated, and that's all pretty much handled automatically. I'll show you how that hooks up in a moment. So this guy just has this stuff, and as far as making announcements, that's here, the subscription registry. You just have to initialize this accessing method, the put, because by default in object nothing much happens. You need to assign it to your registry. You don't need to actually do the assignment, you just have to provide these two methods here. These are methods you have to override in this subclass. So here I set this to 100, then I set a little process up going from 1 to 50, delay for a quarter of a second, bump up the value, and then make an announcement. So here's how you do announcements. Self-announce. Announce is understood by all objects in the system. And then I do a my announcement on self. So I create an announcement object with the updated value and just send it out. And then my receiver is the guy who's going to receive this. And this is how this guy works. In initialize, we set up the announcer's new instance. We set up this when send, and if you're familiar with trigger events, this is pretty much exactly the same thing. So when an announcement comes in, send happened to self, and you notice it's happened colon, so it's going to come in with an argument, and the argument's going to be the instance of that thing that got sent, and then I initialize myself. Now let's see how it all hooks together by creating a new instance of this. We'll do it, and what you can see is, you can see that this thing is printing out in the transcript, and that's because if I go over here and look at the happen method, and I'll bring that into the view, you can see all I'm doing is transcript show, value is, an announcement, value, print string. And over here in my announcement, when I look at print string, here we have print on, next put all, and I print out the current value. So that's how it all hooks together. You have the announcement object, you have the receiver of update messages, and that's put together with when send, and then you have the actual announcer that puts announcements out. So you have some object that's of interest. So for instance, if you were using HTTP and you wanted to update some GUI element for every couple of bytes that came down to show some kind of progress status, every time you received a chunk of bytes from the server, you would send out an announcement, and that way, using this mechanism, your little GUI bar could show itself an update. And that's kind of what you'd use this for. So that's about it for today. Until next time, have fun with Smalltalk.